I don't know. I just had to start a podcast, so we're all just gonna. Okay.
Now repeat what you just said.
Hi guys, welcome back to your Caviar podcast. I have a very special guest today that I'm so excited to have here. I'm also making Turkish coffee, so this is gonna be a little messy, maybe. This is Deric.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
First of all, I love your shirt.
Oh, thanks.
Big comic book fan, right? That's from what anime?
Anime, but it's also a blending of anime because it's the Boondocks, but Boondocks dressed up as Naruto characters.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
That's
so it's a mashup. I'm all about the mashups.
We love the mashups.
Yeah.
And it matches with their shoes. Can we talk about that? Because those are custom Jordans, and I'm obsessed with them.
Sure, yeah. It's this artist named Andrews Art, and he does like custom paint designs on shoes.
And what's the one that's on yours?
Bruce Leroy from The Last Dragon.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I want custom Jordans.
Yeah, well, just go to andrewsart.com, and then he has like all these different type of designs and stuff like that. So I got two of them. I got this, and I got a Miles Morales pair of Jordans as well.
That's so dope. Same color, yellow or
no, black and red.
Nice.
Yeah. So we plug the shoes now.
We plug the shirt.
Yeah.
We're gonna start with. I want to know about like your upbringing, where you're from, your background.
My background. Well, if people can't tell, I'm mixed. I'm half Japanese, half black, or Blackanese for short.
Blackanese.
I was born in Tokyo. My mom's Japanese. My father's black, from Philly. And he was in the military, so met my mom in Japan. Then I was born there, and my father being in the military, we traveled around the world, traveled around various parts of the states, and then went back to Japan. And then.
And how old were you when you guys went back to Japan?
I was like 6 or 7.
Okay.
And then lived there in Okinawa, and then lived in the Philippines, and then came to Central California in the early 80s, where my dad retired, and then I grew up in Central California, a little place called Atwater, California.
Oh yeah, not too far from here.
Oh, it's a little far.
Oh, never mind.
I mean, it's like heading up. It's about just past Fresno.
Okay.
Modesto.
I do know Fresno is like 4 hours.
Yeah, so it's about an hour north of Fresno.
Okay.
That's where it is. So, and then when I graduated from high school, I went in the military, traveled around the world, and then I came.
Hold on. You graduated from high school and you went into the military.
Yeah.
Was that your own decision? Like, were you following?
I wasn't being. You mean was I being drafted or pressured? No, I was like I made stupid decisions in high school.
Okay.
I partied more than studied, and because my first passion was with sports, athletics, primarily track and field. I was really good in it, but because I didn't have the grades, I didn't get any scholarships, and so I could either have the two choices of staying in the small town of Atwater, going to the community college, probably living most of my life there, or going to the military. And so my father being in the Air Force, thought I was going to go in the Air Force, but then I got medically rejected. Oh, look at the tiny little coffee.
I know.
Look at that.
Cute.
A little, what's it called?
This is Turkish coffee.
Turkish coffee.
Yeah, it's really hot, so if you want to put it there and then sip it later, or even maybe after.
Oh, okay, so we're not doing like a shot of it.
Oh no, you could.
No, I'm not going to burn myself for your entertainment. You didn't tell me it was this type of podcast. I will.
Where we take shots of coffee?
Yeah, take a shot of coffee. Exactly. Burn the taste buds. You know, if you haven't already lost your sense of taste from COVID, then this is another opportunity to. Yep. See.
Yeah. I don't know why you're hot.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No. So then I found myself going in the Marine Corps. I was in the Marines because I got medically rejected from the Air Force.
Okay.
Again, for a very stupid reason.
Wait, can I ask what the reason was?
I worked at a little place in high school, a little restaurant you might have heard of it called Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And I always tell the story because it was like Taco Bell had a policy at that time. Well, the one that I worked at was like, bring your own cup. You can drink as much soda as you want. So,
nice.
yeah, but I didn't take that as an invitation. I took that as a challenge. So I brought my cup and I'd be slamming back Pepsis every 5 minutes, not because I was thirsty, but because the magical soda fountain said drink me.
Right.
So, but the problem was I drank so much Pepsis and sodas that by the time that I went for my physical testing, my sugar count was so high, they thought I was diabetic. And so I had to go see a urologist and they had a test, and it turns out I wasn't diabetic, but there was something wrong with the kidney. I had a filter that didn't filter out amino acids properly, which whatever that means.
Yeah.
Translation, I was born with it. I'll die with it. It'll never affect me physically. But at that point in time, the Air Force and the military in general was very picky about who they get. Nowadays, they're taking anybody. You see how, people like senior citizens, older people can join the military.
What's your grandpa gonna do in the military?
Hey, listen.
We'll find you a job, grandpa. No worries.
Yeah. I don't know if
and
that's.
Then you went into the Marines.
Yeah, I went in the Marines. Also was using it as a stepping stone to go to college, because that was the other thing where they said, like, look, if you go in the military, you can get a GI Bill. Once you get out, you can use that GI Bill to go, pay your way through college. And so, because I never intended, like my father, he was in the Air Force for 28 years.
Wow. And
I knew that was not the career path for me.
Do you speak Japanese?
A little bit. I mean, I speak it more now than entirely separate language. It's unlike French, Spanish, German. They're all connected in some way. You trace back to Latin, right? And so there's always a familiarity to it. Where Japanese is an entirely different language, and so if you don't apply it outside the classroom,
So she was talking to you in Japanese, and you were answering back.
Oh yeah. No, I was a terrible son.
That's hilarious. Are you an only child?
No, I have a younger brother. Okay. So, but I just jokingly would always do that. But it was one of those things where you regret, it's like, oh, if I only applied myself more, I would actually be much more fluent in Japanese now than if I think you have to immerse yourself back in the community, in the culture.
Yeah.
It's like when I was stationed in Japan, when I was in the military, I took the bullet train up to Tokyo, and I got lost. And there's nothing like getting lost in a foreign country.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, the Japanese started flooding back, where I was able to navigate around to find my mom.
Isn't that fascinating?
And then it went away after that.
That's
it's
so
like that,
cool.
yeah.
In the household, did your mom cook a lot of Asian food?
Oh yeah, no, I was like right now.
Like she was the cook, or was your dad the cook?
No, my dad would cook from time to time. Like he would cook most of the times. Like anytime my mom was out of town, like if she went to Japan, then we'd be, we know that it's going to be pot roast night, or
nice.
Something like that. Where it was like there were some things that my dad would cook. You're just like, gonna have to sit here in the dark and just chew this meat. Because it was just overcooked, but then the other stuff was Dad would be like, he would cook with barbecues, right? He had his barbecue recipes and books and all that stuff. And whenever we go to the beach, because when we were in Okinawa and Philippines, we'd always go to the beach every weekend.
That's so cool. What was can you give me one or two favorite dishes that Mom always cooked?
Chicken teriyaki was a very simple, easy one. Curry.
Yeah.
It's curry is Japanese curry is so good. Can I tell you something really stupid? So when I was a kid,
Yes.
I was I was convinced that Turkish delight was some sort of meat, some sort of sweet meat turkey thing.
You're not
yeah.
I had some at the house. I made Justin taste it. I had some. I should have brought it.
Yeah, I finally, when I finally had it, I was like, I thought it was maybe a turkey jerky, because my exposure to Turkish delight first was from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Okay.
Right? It was Edmund is he meets the White Queen, and then, is the White Witch, and he's I want some Turkish delight, and she makes the little magical thing. And so as a kid, you're like, oh, that's gotta be so good.
It's good.
And then you just think about that for the rest of your adult life, until finally.
You had any?
Yeah, I've had it, and it was not that.
It's not that.
It's not.
So pistachio is my favorite thing in the whole world, and pistachio Turkish delight is so good. And I'm so mad at myself right now that I didn't bring it. And I remember being like, oh, this would be cool for the podcast.
Yeah, because
I'm looking around it's gonna just magically appear, but it's
because I don't think I've had really any Turkish meals of any type that I can think of.
Noted.
here in Los Angeles.
I know a
Like,
spot.
it's like there's a
I will
spot.
take.
Okay.
Well, he's
House?
a chef, so like he'll
Oh.
cook for people, and like he has like an Instagram where like he'll ask
Oh,
your
okay.
last meal,
Uh-huh.
like if you were to die, what your last meal would be.
Ooh.
I know it's a tough question, but
Maybe sushi. I'm very,
you're
very,
like, that's not
very,
hard.
I'm very,
Sushi.
I'm very simple
I
these
love it.
days.
I
Yeah.
love sushi. When did you pivot from all these other professions you were trying to?
Yeah, no, I've worn a lot of different hats.
Yeah.
That explored a lot of different things. Because also, like, I was an artist when I was growing up, and my goal and dream as a kid was like, I'm gonna move to New York. I'm gonna write and draw comics for Marvel Comics and stuff.
So when did you start writing?
Like my mom jokingly says that the first time she discovered me writing was on the inside of the toilet bowl, and I was like, "Yep," and it hasn't changed since. It's like it's all gone down the toilet. But yeah, she caught me writing in on the inside with a crayon or something like that.
That's
like
hilarious.
that. So, I mean, storytelling has always been a part of my DNA.
Yeah.
Again, having the best of both worlds of like being a American as well as Japanese. So exposed to, manga, anime very early in life. So it's like, it's part of my lifeblood, right? But American cartoons and comics also. And it was something that I was like, oh, I want to be an animator. I want to be this. But then once I had a friend who when he moved away, because we would draw comics together, when he moved away, and he kept drawing. And then he met with an artist there, a creator named Ben Dunn, who had this comic book company called Antarctic Press.
Okay.
And he started working there. And it's like, long story short, when we were kids, we would draw comic books together, and he would be the editor-in-chief of our comic book that we would put together. We would go to the local supermarket, use the copy machine, and then charge people 10 cents to, read our comics and stuff.
Jeez.
And he would be the editor-in-chief of that.
Okay.
Cut to today, these days, he's the editor-in-chief of Antarctic Press.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
Yeah. So
What's
it was
his name?
his name is Joe Welch.
Shout out to Joe.
Joey.
For keeping Deric on track, because you've worked on some really freaking amazing shows.
As a PA.
Okay.
As a PA on the Paramount lot,
As
working
one
for small,
does.
and then from there,
From
working on small little friends, shorts and independent movies and stuff like that. Being a runner, working on a show that over at Comedy Central, and then
That's cool.
Then eventually I got my first gig as a writer's assistant on a sci-fi series called Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda.
Beauty and the Beast. Was that your first big writing credit? But also all your writing stuff merges with you producing, which I love because I'm merging myself into producing. I have so many questions. Okay, wait. So what is your first big credit then?
The first big credit was writing credit for television was a show called Warehouse 13.
Okay.
That was my first TV writing credit with my writing partner. And that starred Kevin Sorbo, and it was part of what once upon a time there used to be a syndicated market.
Okay.
So you had Xena, you had Hercules, you had
my God.
it was like all these, shows that were shot up in Canada and New Zealand, and they would be in the syndicated market. Channel 5 was like a syndicated market. It was WGN back east, stuff like that, right? So I was a writer's assistant on that. And then that's where I really that was the first job where I really learned and began to understand how to write for television. Because up until that point, my goal as a writer it was like my early was like, I'm going to be a screenwriter. I'm going to write movies. And then my friend and mentor at that point in time who helped me get the job, because we met a chance encounter, as I always call it, our sort of like the origin story of all this, met at the Los Angeles comic book convention that used to be a thing where once a month near the last weekend of the month, they would take over the Shrine Auditorium, and it'd be a big comic book convention there.
That's cool.
If you've ever seen the movie Galaxy Quest, that's the movie.
I will watch it.
Oh, it's great.
Okay.
No, you definitely should watch it. It stars
Galaxy
Tim
Quest.
Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Tony Shalhoub.
Just a note. Watch it.
Have you ever seen Galaxy Quest?
You
Yes,
have?
yes. It's a classic.
Okay, sorry.
Then I will no need it. It's like it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because
But you know I'm a sci-fi fan, so I'm like, yes, I will
then
take
you
all of it.
definitely should watch it.
Okay.
And then we'll talk. I will not spoil it for you
Okay,
because
please don't.
that's the great part of it.
Okay.
So, but there's a scene in there where they're at this convention and they shot that at the Shrine, and that was pretty much how the Los Angeles Comic Book Convention was. So I was there on a Sunday with my best friend. We were there for the X-Men trailer, the very first X-Men trailer what was it, 2000, 2001? Producer Tom DeSanto and the guy who played Sabretooth, Tyler Mane, was there.
Okay.
And it was crowded, and I'm on the second floor, jockeying for position. I'm keep bumping into this guy, and I'm like, okay, we're either going to fight or we're going to talk. End up talking to him, and because it was so crowded, we're just bumping elbows. We're trying to get trying to get the spot. I need my spot, like that, And so it was like in my head, I'm like,
okay.
We about to fight.
Yeah.
Then I was like, oh no, let me just, start talking. And it turned out that he had just moved out here from the East Coast.
Okay.
He had started writing on this show, Andromeda. And I did the thing that you're not supposed to do, which is like the first thing you say, like, oh, hey, I'm a writer and you should read something of mine, that sort of thing, right? In my fumbling way of doing that, he was like, sure. Send it to me. Let me, it's like that. So, and, he read this script, this feature, and it was like, it was a feature that I wrote based on a favorite sci-fi book of mine, and I just adapted it. I was like, oh, let me see if I can do this as an exercise, because I know the book inside out, and I see no reason why you can't make it in this business. He says, the talent is there. The formatting wasn't there. I did all the things. I wrote it on Microsoft Word.
Okay.
And just doing the tabs and the margins of like how a screenplay is supposed to be, but all my dialogue was in italics.
Okay.
It was like, no, it's a no-no.
Okay.
Rules are meant to be followed until you break them.
Okay.
Right. But when you're first starting out, the last thing you want is someone to bump up against the things that should be basic sort of common knowledge, right?
That's right.
Because because these days people will be like, this person don't know how to write. And it could be the best story in the world. It could be the most amazing, emotional driven thing, but they get to that first page and they see italics and dialogue and formatting they'll be like, round file.
Yeah.
Like, he told me to, get this book. It was called How Not to Write a Screenplay by Denny Flynn. And I read that book in one night. And I was like, oh, it's because it was written by a former executive who, after, thousands of scripts of reading, right? 95% of them all had the same similar mistakes.
Wow.
And, so you just, so he basically was like, here's how not to write a screenplay.
Right.
Along with the other how to write a screenplay, like Sid Field, the classics, right? Screenwriter's Bible, all this stuff, right? So there's no reason why you can't make it in this business. You have to do three things. And those three things I have since then imparted and passed on to anybody that asks, what does it take to be a writer? How does it, in this business? And they're three very simple things. And it's also going to be applied to just working in this business in general, right? But for writing, it's one, you write every day. Two, if you're not writing, you're reading something. And three, the most important lesson of all, you ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
Finish things.
Yeah.
That's it. It's like but it's so simple, but that is the most complicated thing that people do. Right now, go over to, across the street, there was a Cat and Fiddle.
Yeah.
Go over there, probably find 10 people in there and say, hey, how's your screenplay going? Yeah. And they'd be like, how'd you know I'm writing a screenplay first, right? And then, but then have you finished it? It's like, oh, I've been working on it for about a year and a half, 2 years. It should not take you 2 years to write 90 pages.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. That
bit of advice and, applying it to myself and just keeping that in mind, I'm still here. It's like that.
Those are really great 3-pointers. Thank you for sharing that.
These three things, will get you at least halfway there.
And that's great. Yeah. That's more than most people. Okay, so we have Beauty and the Beast, The Flash, Scream TV series, Arrow, Legacies, Quantum Leap, like
Warehouse 13 again.
Warehouse 13. I can go on because your credits are just amazing. And I love how like your upbringing has influenced obviously like the things that you like, the things that you gravitate towards, you know, anime and like sci-fi and stuff. And then the shows that you worked on reflect that as well. Aside from your own personal things that I know you love to write and like do. Of these, can you share like some experiences that were, you know, maybe like lessons that really like stood out, mainly for writers?
No, it's funny because it's like it's all changed. I mean, where the landscape and how the way that I got into the business, those doors, while not shut, it's definitely harder. There is right now, you know, as we all are seeing it, there's a contraction that is happening, right? And it's not by choice.
Yeah.
And so when you had like a couple years ago, 500 shows, you know, we're down to maybe more closer to like 300 shows, or, you know, there's a lot of, you know, just things that's changed, has happened. And like I said earlier, it's like, learn the rules in order to break them.
Yeah.
Learn the rules so that you can basically get in there. And first and foremost, but it doesn't matter, you know, it all starts on the page. If you do not have a great writing sample, if you do not have, you know, a good piece of material that people, whether it's a short story, whether it's a script, whether it's a play, whatever it is that does not get a person's attention, then you got to keep working on that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, again, my mentor, when he said, was like, when we first started out, he was saying like, oh, you got that screenplay? Bury it, put it away, write your next one. And then after that, bury that, write your next one. Write at least 5, right? You know, 4 or 5 scripts before you start showing them to people, really showing them to people.
That's good advice. This might be a silly question, but I kind of have this like, I guess like image of what a writer's room looks like when you're working on like, what is the
I get paid to make shit up for a living. And you know, it's like there's nothing better than when you're in a room and you're arguing about who would win in a fist fight, a robot or a gorilla. You know, those are real conversations, right? Or it's like, oh, time travel, you know, it's like, okay, well, if it does work that way, then what happens to this person? Well, you know what, the quantum entanglement, you know, and then you start all of a sudden just bullshitting science and just like, but you're trying to get a story out. Writers' rooms are basically controlled chaos, because it's very chaotic in nature. It's very, you know, and you have to have somebody who has a very stern sort of like POV that's running the room, the showrunner, you know, and the sort of like everybody on the same page of knowing that we got to row in the same direction. You know, it's like if you ever watch 30 Rock and you like when Liz Lemon and all the writers around the table, that's pretty much a writer's room. That's comedy, but comedy as well as drama are very much like that. You know, it's just all different types of personalities. And that's the other thing. It's like as a showrunner, when I say a showrunner, that's the head writer, executive producer, that, you know, hires the writers, and it's all about mix and matching, because you got to find the personalities that, you know, you got to have the strong personalities. You got to have basically the soft spoken personalities, the person that's very good with emotion, person very good with action, very good with characters, you know, all that type of stuff comes into play where everybody's a good writer, but everybody has a different strength. Everybody has, you know, something to contribute in a different way and has a voice, but also knows that you have to write in the same voice.
Yeah.
Everybody brings their voice into something, but at the same time, at the end of the day, it's still the voice of the show.
Right.
Right. And that's what very good writers can do that. They can move from show to show because they can capture the voice of that show, the voice of those characters, and be able to adapt very quickly. Right. That's a muscle that you early on, it's hard to do. You know, because you got to have an ear for it. Then you get hired. When you're in that room, then it's, you know, that's where you're saying when you're talking about the writing and producing, you're writing and producing at the same time. You're learning that, even though if you know, even as a staff writer at the very beginning, with a good showrunner, with good, you know, good guidance, people and leadership in charge that understand that, like, hey, part of my job is to make you a better writer. It's a selfish and a selfless sort of position to be in. Like, you know, we all started in the same place most of the time.
Okay, so you're writing, producing, and you're also doing a showrunner program.
did the show. Yeah. I did the showrunner training program. Showrunner training program is something that the WGA, the Writers Guild of America, it's a program that is designed to help writers that are on the verge of either running their own shows for the first time or have sold a show or, are very close to it because they get selected because you have to apply for it.
Okay.
And they only have room for a certain number of people. And so I and my writing partner, we applied back in 2020. We applied several years in a row and we would always get rejected. Mm-hmm. But the year that we applied, we had sold 2 shows. And so we're like, hey, there's a possibility this one of these can go. So let's just apply, see what happens.
Amazing.
And it's a program that's started and created and run by writers Jeff Melvoin and Carol Kirshner, and created specifically in a way that was important because there wasn't a clear sort of educational process for a lot of writers that either were coming into the business cold or rising up through the ranks, but still not having the great mentorship and leadership that shows them how to run a show. But even so, because it's like as much as you try to teach someone when you think you have time, you're still trying to run a show. So there are like 300 plus things that you're doing at any given moment that trying to give someone the time of day. You have to be very, careful of how you manage your time. Right.
And how long is
the program is 6 weeks. So it's 6 Saturdays and you meet in this all day. It's like normally starts around like 9:30 and goes to like 4:30 in the afternoon with a break for lunch. Nice. And in those programs, what they do is they bring in other showrunners, other writer producers, other executives, other people that work in post and editing, stuff like that will come in and talk about their experiences. And again, it's just to give a proper sort of introduction and education on like, here's what's going to happen when you start to run your show.
That's great.
And these are the things that you're going to have to watch out for. And these are the pitfalls and, and so forth and so on. And then it culminates into the final class, which I took again this past weekend, taught by John Wells, which is about financing and production of, basically understanding like what it's going to take to keep track of like all the money that you're going to be spending. Wow. All this stuff is stuff that they don't teach you necessarily when a lot, because it's almost the equivalent of someone handing you $50 million and saying that you are now a company that you are in charge of
go play
with this $50 million, 300 plus people that, that you're in charge of, and you need to deliver this product in a timely manner. It's like that's
a lot.
3 to 6 months to get the scripts written, or not 3 to 6 months, but like 3 months, less than 3 months time, to get scripts written, delivered, in production, shooting, and on air, right? If it's not on streaming, right. Where sometimes it could be over a good year. But in those type of things, so those are all the type of scenarios that you have to be ready and understand and what is about to be thrown your way. And also, again, it's like in that way of like the pressure is so immense because it's like, would you trust yourself with $50 million
right now?
Right.
I would actually
to run a show.
To run a show.
To run a show to get a show.
Just like hire someone who knows how to run a show with that money.
Right.
And
Right. So you have to understand like what that means and how.
So after the program, do you get to shadow someone?
No, not necessarily, because most people that are in the program are either on a show already. Okay. And so again, you're talking about people that already have a lot of experience under their belts. Right? Like once that program is over, you have it, you have it as on your resume of like, oh, I went through the showrunner training program. So it gives an added level of confidence that when a studio and a network says like, okay, we want you to run this show, they know that there's some understanding there, but there's still going to be, oh, you know what? You've never run a show. We're going to pair you up with this person that has. And a lot of times that person will have the understanding of like, oh, I'm going to do this first year with you. Like I have a good friend, fantastic, talented showrunner, writer named Joe Henderson. And he does this a lot where he's like, I will help run that show that first year, show you the ropes. Then I'm out, back off, and that's what a good showrunner in that or executive producer in that position will do.
That's amazing.
For people. Yeah.
That's great.
It's like no.
That's good to know. I didn't know that existed.
Yeah. No, that's existed. There's other programs that they're working on. They're trying to again sort of like really protect and nurture and make sure that writers coming up through the ranks are going to have that support in place and understanding that. So there's people working on that now.
That's cool. I have a future film. It's called Definition Please. That was in 2020.
I was actually just an EP on it. My friend Sujata Day.
Okay, that's
she's the writer, director, actor.
Was that
it's like that case? It's like I was an executive producer. Like, here's some money, and I want to help back your film because Sujata is a good friend of mine. She's super talented, and when she said that she was going to do this, and and shared the script, and it was like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer.
It looks really great.
That was fantastic.
And
it's on Netflix.
I have two friends that's in it.
Yeah.
Sankrish Bala and June Bard.
Yeah, I know. I met them at the screenings and stuff like that. But again, no, Sujata's a very good friend. She willed that film into existence. It's like if there's a lesson to be learned of like really being passionate about and believing in yourself and doing, and just taking the bull by the horns and saying like, I'm going to do this. Because when she said a year ago, I mean, not a year, and it's been more than a year, but the year before she started, she was like, I'm going to direct this movie. And she had already directed a short. Okay. And so she had, this, but she raised the money and did it and shot it back in her hometown. After it was all done, trying to find a distributor, it was like she finally was able to, find the right people. But then she marketed the hell out of it herself. Yeah. I mean, she's like, I think I wouldn't say close to like 70 to 100 different interviews and press, and she did all that herself. I mean, she is.
You said it's on Netflix?
Yes, it's on Netflix.
Definition, please. Go watch it.
No. So if you see a lot of the credits where I have executive producer and stuff like that, those are like executive producers of Friends projects.
That's really
nice. Was like, hey, I'm making a little bit of money. Yeah. And I know I'm going to back that. I can help you out.
That's so great.
Because otherwise I just spend the money on sushi.
Which is not a bad spend.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what it's about. I love, there's certain people that I really look up to because they really take care of like their friend groups that are in the business, because unless you're really in it, people have no idea how hard it is and how many years and hard work and like rejection and side jobs and like people have no idea. Okay, so one of my last questions for you. I like asking this because I feel like when people ask me my favorite movie, and we kind of discussed this actually when we had coffee the first time. And it's coming back at you. So 5 shows that describe who you are.
5 shows that describe who I am. I would just say TV. TV describes it because I just watch TV. I love, entertainment. So that's like, I don't know if there's 5 shows.
Shows or films.
Films, because again, I grew up on Star Trek. Grew up, in both in the movies and the TV shows, right? And then Star Wars. Star Wars was like my first real sort of, I remember it was like, first time as a kid seeing it in the theaters, blowing my mind. And then I thought that, and then from there, I thought again, as a kid, like, I'll be a comic book artist and writer, and then I'll write books, be like Stephen King or C.S. Lewis or,
I can see you writing
something like that. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I mean.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah, I got several.
Did I know this?
Yes.
Okay.
It's all right. We talked about a lot.
No, I've seen
Was that the one with Rosario?
Yeah.
We're doing also as a comic book. That will be coming out later on this year.
Okay.
So.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so our artist, Pete Woods, he's doing the book. He's working on the book right now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so we have that book, and then we're doing another comic book actually with Ray from Quantum Leap. Raymond Lee. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing a comic book, and so our artist Danny Kim, who's this artist, fantastic artist out of South Korea, he's doing the artwork for that right now.
That's amazing. Well, that's exciting. That's
So my writing partner, Ben and I, his name's Benjamin Rabb. Ben and I, we've been writing together now almost 21 years. And so, but yeah, we created a comic book back in 2005. It was called Living in Infamy, about a witness protection program for reformed supervillains living in a small town, Arizona. And actually, their 20th anniversary is coming up this summer, I think. Oh, good Lord. Yeah. So this summer it'll be 20 years since we came up with that idea, and we had to wait for the rest of the town to catch up with what we were trying to do, because we weren't Superman, we weren't Spider-Man or Batman or Wonder Woman. And so it was at a point in time where comic book movies weren't that big and that weren't that celebrated, well known, right? Other than the big three type of characters.
Right.
So anytime we tried to take it out, people didn't understand it. When there's, and then we watched the rest of the town catch up and watched the rest of the town blow past us. To the point now you have The Boys, you have, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like we're still talking to some people about it, but it is a different conversation, because it's like now it's like the saturation of it. And so how do you bring, something like that to life? And we still think we have an angle that, you still haven't really seen, which is basically the supervillains living their lives, and family dramas and tied around that, right? So we're kind of, as I always say, cautiously optimistic, or at this point, just exhaustedly optimistic, trying to make that. But in the meantime, Ben and I, that was like our first comic book, and then we did a couple other comic books, and then we recently got back to doing this comic book called Renegade that we're now.
Renegade.
Really, yeah.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I have a little insider peek, so I know exactly what he's talking about. It's gonna be so good.
When does this air?
Whenever I finish editing it, which is going to be not that long.
'Cause I could show you the cover.
Oh, yes. This episode probably won't until August.
Oh, yeah. Then by then we will probably have made. Let's see. For it.
It looks so cool. Wait, yes.
Yeah. That's
or a film.
Afua Richardson did the alternate cover for that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So maybe more towards the end of the year.
Okay.
That's because we're doing the 6 issues.
Okay.
And so that issue 1 in the can, issue 2 is being worked on, and in August or September we'll be making the announcement, the actual announcement.
So, but it's going to be a comic book, and then is the goal to make it
feature? Yeah. It's like we have people interested. The thing, you're talking to people. You know how this business is. Like, people talk, but it's a matter of getting people to see it in a way that should be a simple thing. But, we discover it's like, unless you are, you have Timothy Chalamet or Anya Taylor-Joy, no one wants to do anything anymore in the same way. It was like that. I love Dune.
I love Dune.
Dune's fantastic. Denis Villeneuve, I'm butchering his last name. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's beautiful.
Great.
Yeah. So.
Thank you so much for coming. This was so. I feel like I can talk comic book and all that stuff all day. What is this? Okay.
One more question. Just we have a couple.
Okay.
Go back to.
My producer just gave me one more question. You guys, hold on. Okay, last question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a show out right now where you wish you could be part of the writing staff that you just really love and respect?
I really respect it and love, but that's also because it was such a love letter to people that love that show. What Terry Matalas and the writers on Picard did, 3rd season of Picard, was so good. It was basically a love letter to the fans of Star Trek Next Generation and all the things that that you want to to see and you're hoping to see with the return of the original cast members and mixed with the new people. It was just such a delight, and you're watching this and you're just like, wow, I wish I could have been a part of that. It's like that would be one. Yeah. Shogun is another one. Shogun is so it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So there's shows that like that where it's just like, oh my God, it's
inspired.
So good. Another one that I love is Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, okay.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get a lot of credit, the credit that it deserves. It's just it's just really well told, and just the performances are just exquisite.
The casting, the
cast,
writing,
all that writing, yeah.
I really love. love. I know they're making a movie now, but Peaky Blinders was.
Oh
one of
yeah, I
those
have friends
shows.
that I never watched it. I still
What?
I know.
If I'm gonna watch that one thing you mentioned, you
What,
have to
Galaxy
watch-
Quest
Yes.
and Peaky Blinders are not the same.
Not the same,
It's
but
let's be
one
real.
Episode. Promise me
I
one
got
episode.
so much stuff to watch.
Okay, fair.
But it is on my eventual list.
It's so
It's
good.
always been on my eventual
I think it's
list.
one of those shows, and there's always several, but I don't
Yeah.
know for whatever reason. I also met the director Anthony, and he's just so lovely. But from the writing to the casting to the performances to like the editing, the sound, like it's one of those shows where I'm just like in awe, and I was in awe of it until the beginning and the end, which I think is also very hard to do because I think it was 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders.
I'm sure there's more, but that's the one that comes to mind. But thank you so much for coming.
Oh,
and
I hope I
giving
didn't
us, like,
ramble too much.
Oh my gosh,
about
no. I loved it. I loved learning more about you. And just like giving people a writing perspective on things.
Look, if you want to write, just write. I will say, the last thing I will say is that if I was starting out today, I would be so envious because there's so many things, there's so many ways to basically have access
Yes.
to becoming a writer in a way that where we were, struggling to find, just latch on to any good blog, any good, bits of information that weren't, just in a book,
Yeah.
right? And also have the access to people that do this.
Yeah.
There's so many more people, and also the ways that you can do this, right? Like by creating your own podcast, by doing, just small little shorts on TikTok, all this type of stuff that didn't exist in ways where there's no excuse if you really want to do this, that you can, find a way to do this.
Yeah, I agree. And just keep going.
And keep going.
Thank you for that golden nugget.
Yeah. No, thank you. It was fun.
Great.
I tried.
High five. I loved it.